Hey, what's going on, everyone? Daniel back here again with another deck yap. This one's going to be a very fun freaking deck to play. Very easy, very simple. Just a very beginner friendly deck, and it's just super fun. It's going to be what I call the Galuf Fun deck. So this one just plays with Opus 21 Galuf and a bunch of just little shithead 2 drops. Yeah, but this deck is very fun. This deck can get very powerful, very swarmy, very out of control, very fast. Depending on which 2 drops you combined with and how you're playing it, you could do a lot of fun things with this deck. Kind of been playing this deck ever since this card dropped. Just different variants of this deck. I've had Earth Fire, Earth Wind, Earth deck with it. I had a 13 variant where it was playing the Final Fantasy 13 2 drops with it. So you could do a lot with this Galuf card. This card's very cool. But let's get right into like the deck. So the forwards I'm playing in the deck are all pretty interesting. They all do sort of something in the deck. Probably the only one I would say that doesn't really do too much in this deck is going to be Ash, but he's there for a reason, and you'll see what reason that is when I get into it. But let's start off with our first forward, which is going to be 1 copy of Opus 14 Aerith. Now I'm playing this card as a 1 of because this card is a wind CP and a water CP. It also has a very, very, very good ability of when she enters the field. You can choose one of the 2 following actions. The first one is choose one other forward you control, and you can return it to your hand. So then you could just like replay it or do something else with it. And then the second one is really cool. So it says choose one forward you control. It gains this forward cannot be chosen by your opponent's abilities until the beginning of your next turn. This is really cool because if your opponent tries to target one of your forwards with excuse me, an ability on your turn, with a card like Chocobo Chick, you can actually cast Chocobo Chick and then play out this Aerith and then completely negate, the effect. You could also just play this Aerith down off of a Galoof flip to force back the Galoof to then, recast Galoof. You could play this off of the new Opus 25 Kate Sif. So this card is very cool. Also, it is water CP for your Miwa here. So with a card like Zeege, you can search it and then, pitch it for the Miwa. But next up is another Aerith. It's going to be Opus 16 Aerith. We play this at 2 copies. This card is going to be one of our sort of amp cards for our just in general. This card gives everything 2k except for herself. And then when she is broken, she gets removed from play, and you put 3 re-raise counters on her. And at the beginning of every main phase of your turn, you can remove a re-raise counter from her. After all 3 are gone, she gets replayed back onto the field. But this is gonna be like a good, just like amp card, just for your guys in general. You want to kind of be hitting a certain damage like power range. So you want to be at least somewhere between 7 and 9k with most of your forwards. Um, some cards like Bart's and Persia can get higher, but it's going to be very, very good just to keep your guys strong enough to just block some forwards on your opponent's side. Next up is going to be the Opus 18 Bart's here. This Bart's, when he enters, he names one job and one element. He gains the job and then becomes the element. So when he gains the job, he gains 2k for each, other forward with that job on your side. So this is really good because we're playing monks. We have a small monk package, and we have a little bit of a soldier package. So depending on what forwards you have out, you can pick and choose which one you want to be. You mainly want to aim for the monks because of the new LB Yang. So this is what you're going to want to be using. And then when you call the element, he just can't be chosen by summons or abilities of that element. So it's a very good, just like counter tool for your opponent. Like, just to respond to your opponent's like cards and stuff. So things like Cloud, LB can't hit this if you're playing against Lightning decks. Ice cards can't really hit this. Fire cards wouldn't be able to hit this. So just keep that in mind. However, it can still be Ahmad, so just, keep that in mind as well. Next up, we have 2 copies of Poppy here. This card is debatable if you need it at a 2 or a 1. I like it at a 2 because of the colors we're playing. She basically gives a bunch of different effects for 3 different elements, which is wind, ice, and earth. If you have wind forwards, they can't be blocked by forwards of 3 or more. If you have any ice forwards, they just gain 1k power in first strike. Really good for your Sephiroth, your new Opus 25 Sephiroth, the young Sephiroth, the ice one. Really cool for that. And then she gives all earth forwards 1k brave, so she's basically like LB Matt, but constant. Pretty cool tool, especially for a card like Aerith, making her 6k, and then Galuf pumping her by an extra 2. So it makes the Aerith a little bit harder to kill without like a card that just breaks a 2 or less or something like that. Next up, we have this Prish, Opus 22 Prish at 2 copies. This is a really cool card, and I'm debating playing this at a 3. This card is very, very strong for just being a rare. So when this card is chosen by a summon or ability, either yours or your opponent, she will gain 2k power. And then whenever she deals a point of damage to your opponent, you get a character back. The main thing is the fact that when you target her, she gains 2k power. So cards like, where is she? Luca right here says give 1, 2 or less 1k power. It's really strong with it because you can just give her 1k power, her effect will trigger, and she'll gain an extra 2k, gaining like 3k extra power. Her with a Galuf out basically means you always have a sturdy blocker on your opponent's turn that they just can't really deal with unless they clean break it. Which there's a lot of ways to get rid of 2-drops, but, if they try to target her with ping damage, she'll gain the power. If they target her with damage reduction, she'll gain the power. So it's pretty nice. And there's a bunch of other combos you could use with different summons that can target her and your opponent's things like that. But next up, we have 2 copies of Miwa. This card is really cool because we're playing the new Opus 25 Light Una. So it has combo synergy there. This also has just decent combo synergy with a lot of the deck. You can swing in and then back attack on your opponent's turn to, when she enters, reactivate all of the forwards on your side and then negate all damage dealt to them. So it's pretty cool. You could just do things like that. Also, if you're at damage 5 for whatever reason, she'll enter in and give all the forwards 2k power. So that's another cool thing that you can do. You can make your Prishes even bigger. You can make just most of your forwards just way bigger. Next up, we have 1 copy of Opus 24 Ash. This card is literally just there because he's a monk. And with the new Opus 25 Ursula, he's a search target. You could cut this card. I play it. It is pretty decent. He does gain 3k on block. And with Galuf out, he can be pretty dangerous on your opponent's turn. He does have Brave, so he's always active. And he is something your opponent has to deal with. He does gain a crystal if your opponent targets him with anything, but you don't really use crystals in this deck. I mean, you can, but you don't really have to. Next up, we have Opus 25 Yuffie. This card is pretty cool. She comes in with haste. Every time she attacks, she places a shuriken counter on herself. And if she's blocked, she deals 4k for each of those shuriken counters on her. So she can pretty much kill anything at 2 counters. And then combo that with like a Galuf, making her 6k. And then like if you have Aerith out, she's 8k. She can become pretty annoying to deal with. Even with Poppy out, she can be pretty annoying because the 3 or lesses can't deal with her. So now they have to use, their smaller bodies. Or if they don't have, they just have to deal with taking the free point of damage. Next up is 2 copies of Lucia. This is a pretty cool card. Combos well with the new Yuna. Because at the end of each of your turns, she'll activate all your soldiers. So using her with Matt to just be like minus 2k on something here, minus 2k something there, or just using her with Yuna to be like, I'll dull Lucia and Matt on my turn to dull two forwards, get a swing in, at the end of the turn they'll reactivate, is pretty cool. Also, if you have the three job soldiers, you can draw a card by dulling three of them. That's where Bart's comes in. He'll become your third soldier. Um, but you don't really need to worry about that too much. Next up is Opus 25, Ursula at 2 copies. This card is pretty cool. I really like it. Enters in, you search, if she enters in by an ability or a summon, so basically Galuf effect, or Katsif, or Chocobo Chick, or Luso, or even Yang LB, she will search a monk. It could be any monk, it could be a forward monk, backup monk. This card is very cool. You could actually play this deck as a monk deck. One of my friends at our locals plays it. She really enjoys this core, this whole just little Galoof synergy core. She plays it with monks, and she is doing very well with the deck. So I'm happy to see her improve and just, do a lot better with an actual fun deck that she's liking now. And since she likes the monks and stuff, it just works out really well. She also has an on-attack trigger, Ursula here. When Ursula attacks, you can choose one forward your opponent controls and deal it damage based on Ursula's power. So Ursula and the chosen forward will deal damage to each other, so basically they fight. This is where Aerith, Poppy, and Galuf really make the deck shine, as just pumping your Earth characters or Earth forwards or just your smaller bodies can be really deadly. You can do some funny stuff with Ursula Prish. So you can actually, if you have, like, depending on your summons, you could probably, like, make your Ursula fight your Prish. Pretty sure there's like a Yojimbo or something like that does it. I'm not too familiar with all the Earth summons that well, but you can do some funny stuff with Ursula and her just like attacks, or just making her fight multiple things with summons and stuff. Next up, we have 2 copies of Opus 25 Vincent. Pretty decent card. He has first strike, so it's pretty nice. Again, if you wanted to run ice in this deck, Earth Ice deck with like young Sephiroth could work. You do have an Ice Moogle that taps for win, so you can throw in Poppy. Just saying. But yeah, when this guy attacks, he's going to gain 4k power till the end of the turn, so he becomes 9k. He could become even bigger with Aerith out, or Poppy, or Galuf. Poppy giving him 1k Brave is pretty cool, because him having Brave and First Strike kind of matters. It's kind of dangerous being just like this little dude that has, either 6k or like 9k with like First Strike and Brave on your opponent's turn as well. Also, you can pay 7 and choose a forward and deal damage equal to Vincent's power. This is okay. Paying 7 is kind of a lot, so you probably would never do this, but if you have the extra CP to do it, go ahead. We talked about Matt a little when we talked about Lucia. He is going to be a soldier that you can just cheat out. He also has First Strike. Just in case you do have like a Galuf out to make him 7, he can block 7Ks and just be perfectly fine. He also has the caveat of making the soldiers other than Matt, or sorry, he has the caveat of he protects the other soldiers. So any soldier that isn't him can't be chosen by your opponent's abilities. So things like Bart's becoming a soldier and Lucia, they just end up being protected by Matt here. And then also you could dull a job soldier to minus 2k something. Next up is a card you don't need in the deck, but if you have it, I would say play it with this card, with Galuf here. It's going to be the Light Yuna from Opus 25. This card is insanely powerful. It does a lot of good control-y stuff. Could be used in aggro because your guys are going to gain Brave and stuff like that. So she can do a lot of cool things. Her just dulling 2 forwards to choose 2 forwards and dull them on your opponent's turn is pretty nice. It's reminiscent of Lilizette from Opus 15, the lightning one that says like dull a dancer, dull something. That one is pretty cool. It's just pretty cool card here. She can also freeze a character, and then she can tax your opponent's summons or auto abilities here. So it makes them think twice about using stuff like Shantoto and things like that. Um, Next up is Pain. It's just a way to search Yuna on a burst. Um, Again, these two cards are optional. You don't really need them in the deck. Another optional card here I like is Tifa from Opus 18. This card is really, really freaking good. Her reducing the damage that she takes by 2k is pretty nice. Her entering the field and then you paying 2 more to make her fight something is incredibly strong, especially if you have an Aerith out. If you have an Aerith and a Poppy out, she is deadly. She can't be blocked by 3 or more, and she gets 1k Brave. Insane. With the 2k extra power from like an Aerith, super cool. She has an S ability if you choose to play more Tifas, but you don't really need to worry about this. This is basically a pay 5, and then you choose up to 3 forwards and deal them 8k. But you don't need to worry about that. Her at a 1 copy is fine. She's also a searchable CP for, any of your cards. She's Wind and Earth. Zeech can grab her, so it's pretty nice. Next up, and our last forward is going to be the star card of the deck. It's going to be our good old Galuf here. This card is insanely powerful, and I am surprised people really didn't use this card before, because 2-drops were kind of annoying always. I mean, I know there's cards like Ixion and stuff that could stop them, but there's a lot of very powerful 2-drops that can do a lot of annoying shit. But basically what he does is when he enters the field, he will flip the top 5 cards of your deck, and he will play a 2 or less forward, 1 2 or less forward from those 5 revealed. Depending on how you set up your deck, this can always hit, or this could have a chance of whiffing. He also has the field effect of all of your 2 and less forwards gain 2k power. So this is very strong just to buff all of your little dudes. And then as, I was going through the cards, some other cards like Aerith can also pump even more. Some cards benefit from having high, power and stuff like that. So depending on how you choose to play your Galuf deck, this could get really good, very easily. Next up, going into summons, I just want to point out Hashmal here. This is an optional card depending on your deck, but I am running it because I like the idea of either making all my forwards monks or all my forwards soldiers. If I choose to make all my forwards soldiers, and I have Matt and Lucia out with enough forwards, I can pretty much draw a card, draw one to minus 2k, dull another to minus 2k, potentially just, powering something out, end my turn, reactivate everything, and just, having, potentially, if I had Yuna out, I can still do stuff. If I make everything a monk, I do have the potential to go Yang LB. If I didn't have Galuf out, I can do Yang LB. Since I have enough monks, I could play Galuf for free from hand. Yes, it's 6 CP to do that. Is it worth it? Hell yeah, when you think about it, because you're potentially getting another body if you're playing out the Galuf, and you flip a 2-drop. Just really strong card in general. He also gives 1k, and he adds an element to all your forwards. So it's just pretty good. Next up, Kusif. No real need to talk about this card. It just recurs a forward or a backup from your break zone. It's on a burst. It's a 2 CP card. Basically, it's in every Earth deck. So you kind of always want to run 3. Next one is going to be Chocobo Chick. If you have enough copies, I would say run this at least at 2. 3 is also fine. This card is insane on what it can do and what the implications are, what forwards it could freaking play. Just, it's a kind of a silly, stupid card. For 3 CP, you honestly don't mind hard playing this. I don't know why you would ever remove a backup for it, unless you really want to replay, another backup or something like that. But this card just being I'm going to deal 2k damage to all my opponent's forwards, and then playing a 2 or less that can potentially change the game is kind of funny. I've seen this used with Archfiends to play Barbaretia and just wipe the board. I've seen this used to play just like a bunch of stupid 2-drop cards. So this card is pretty funny. As for backups, we're running 16 backups. You can get away with 15 or 14 backups if you want to up your forward count. If you want to play Yuna at a 3, if you want to play, Prish at 3, maybe you want to play other forwards. It's all up to you. I'm running 2 Godo from Opus 8 here, the Opus 8 starter deck. Because I have Yuffie in the deck, so giving Yuffie the 1k extra, making her 5, and then Galuf pumping her by an extra 2 to make her 7, things like that. It's just power increase on the Yuffies, making her better. He also gives Yuffie first strike when Yuffie attacks. So if your opponent does choose to block the Yuffie, you can give it first strike. They take 5k immediately, and then 4k from her Shuriken, killing it. Since we're playing Earth, I'm playing Class 8 Moogle at 2 copies, because this card, even though it's Wind, it can tap for Earth CP. Just to jump down the line, Shantoto does the same thing. Shantoto is an Earth backup that on plays reveals the top 5 cards. It adds a Wind or an Earth. It adds 1 Wind and 1 Earth card. And then she can also tap for Wind CP, so it's, basically the same as the Class 8 Moogle, where it taps for another CP. Another card that does that is going to be Tyro here, just to skip around a little bit. Tyro is going to be a burst search for a forward, and then he taps for any CP. He also has the damage 5 trigger of choosing a forward, giving it 2k. Again, you could use this with Prish. I talked about Luca a little bit before when I was talking about Prish, but I do play 2 copies of Luca from Opus 25. When she enters, you reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. You add 1, 2, or less character from your hand to your hand, and then return to the rest of the bottom. So this potentially can grab you Zeege, Class 8 Moogle, or Godo as well, since this can grab characters. Also, if you want to play monsters, you can grab a monster as well. Next up is Opus 25, Katesif. Play it at 2, it's fine. When he enters the field, you play a 2 or less character from your hand. Again, you could play Kates if it's a backup, Kates if it's a forward, Kates if it's a monster, whatever you want. He also he can crack himself, pay 1 Earth, tap him, crack him, and you grab a 7 character from your break zone. He can grab himself, since it doesn't say you can't grab him. He can grab Godo, he can grab Zeege, he can grab any of your 7 characters. Since I'm playing a bit of a 7 core, it's pretty nice to have. Talking about Zeege, we also have Zeege. Break him, you search for a 7 forward and add it to hand. Really cool for Aerith, really cool for Tifa. Nice to get your Yuffie, your Vincent, anything you need. Other backups we play is going to be Luso. He's at a 2. When he enters the field, you choose a character of 2 or less in your break zone, play it onto the field. Really, really good just to revive one of your dead 2-drops. He could also play a backup, so you could do Luso into backup. It's pretty nice. We play 1 Sid Highwind from Opus 25. Again, this is a card you can cut from the deck. You don't need this card in the deck. But since I'm playing a little bit of a 7 core, it's pretty nice. If you have the CP to do it, and your opponent seems like it's playing a little bit slow, and you haven't seen some pieces, you can play him, search for 2 7 forwards, and then add them to your hand. At damage 5, he also plays a category 7 forward of 5 or less from your hand. You don't really care about that effect too much because your category 7 cards are literally either 2-drops or the 1 3-drop if you decide to play Tifa. But if you do decide to play, let's say, like a Fire Earth variant, or like you want to splash in some other cards in this deck, you could play like the new Opus 25 Cloud, which he can play out more stuff, so it's pretty nice. And then to end it, talk about the LBs. The only ones that really matter are going to be Yang and Matt, since they're monks. Everything else is optional. I play 1 Red 13 because he is a 7 forward, and since I'm playing 7 forwards, I can use his effect pretty easily. He may be fire, but I can play him off of Tyro. Another one is Zack. You could play Opus, 22, 23 Zack, the LB Zack. He is a soldier. He is also fire, but if you're playing cards like Tyro and cards that allow you to tap for any element, it's pretty nice. Um, Ace is nice because we're playing wind. And then Vajradaraha Wu. I don't know how to pronounce this card, but this card's pretty good. It's wind earth. It can break a damage forward. It can make something fight. And then, you know, it's pretty nice forward. Pretty nice body to have. Works well with Poppy. And basically that's all. Now to talk about some other cards that you can add in this deck. I'm going to bring up this Cecil once again for like the 30th time. The Cecil is just really nice. He plays a 4 or less character from your hand. He taxes your opponent if your opponent wants to do anything. You can play this. You could play this deck with a Final Fantasy IV like core, and pop off with this card. It's pretty nice. Again, Zidane. Both Zidans, they're 2-drops. You can play them. They're wind. They're just good cards. They're really good cards to play. They're very annoying. Your opponent's going to want to deal with them before dealing with any of your other forwards. So they're a good, like, just sort of like decoy target. Another card I want to talk about is a card that's personally one of my favorite cards. I really love this Opus 17 Maria. This card is so ridiculous. So she gives all of your 2 or less characters 2k power, so she's basically like another Galuf. But her thing is, when she enters the field, she targets one of your backups, she activates it, and then it loses all of its abilities and becomes a forward of 8k power. So, what this means is that your Class 8 Moogle can now become a forward that can just be 10k and be annoying. This with specific backups can be very annoying because it just makes it like a 10k body that just sits there and it can attack. So that backup can attack because it technically was already on the field for a while. But I really love this card. Another card that goes really well with this deck and with this card is going to be Opus 15 Leon. So this card says, when a forward of 10k power or more attacks, you draw a card. Notice it doesn't say it's once per turn. So because it doesn't say it's not once per turn, you can keep doing this draw 1 every time something attacks. This is a really good draw engine, and then he has the damage 3 of playing any Maria from your break zone. There is an Opus 1 backup Maria that just gives every forward 1k power. It's a 4-drop Wind Maria. That one is really strong with this card because, it just pumps more power. And then, this card with, like, the Galuf and the Aerith and everything that's pumping power is just, like, you can draw a lot of cards with it. One card that I want to make note of, if you're running a fire variant of this deck or just want to play with, funny 2-drop cards that, could work in fire, Edgar's always a card you want to look at. This is Opus 21 World of Final Fantasy Edgar. This card is very nice. He plays a 2 or less character from your hand. This can work in fire decks. Fire Water plays this card. You could do things like, Sarah to search a king. He is a job king, so you could search him, play out Lena. You could play out Firion. He also has a tap effect of break him and play a 2 or less from your hand, so he can do little flash effects like that. He's always giving all of your 2-drops back attack, basically, which is really nice. And then just to go through the list of, like, 1s and 2s drop characters you might want to look at, Len here is really nice to look at. Aerith is a good one you might want to think about. The soldier candidates actually can work pretty nicely. Things like Reno, Cagnazzo, you have cards like Lightning, which is pretty cool. Chime for a Lightning deck can flip the top 4 cards and add a 2 or less. So you can do like Galoof, flip Chime, flip a card, add it to your hand. You know, you have a lot of cool cards here. Just going down the line again, the soldier candidates, the crystal game, the crystal spender guys are all really nice. Hell, you could do Ayame with samurais is pretty cool because like if Ayame has 9k power, she can ping something for 7. Um, if you're running like Reno, you could do Cisne. Uh, the 13 deck that I was playing used this Hope to flip cards. Basically, this was my Chime. Um, you could use Lulu here. Raijin, Fujin are 2 drops. You have tons of like just fucking options that you can do and mix and match with your deck. Warrior of Light, Riku, this Ursula for crystals, Waft Snow, you know, like Waft Cloud to break something if you're playing a Waft core. Um, just loads of value in 2 drops here. And this is why I was saying I don't understand why Galuf wasn't being like looked at or thought about or even used. Because there's a lot of good 2 drop cores that were out at the time he came out. So like Galuf came out in Opus 21 and you had all of these cards. Like Waft Snow is pretty annoying because he dulls and freezes a character on attack. You just have a bunch of good, powerful cards here that can just do stuff. And even with like Chocobo Chick now, you have a lot of interesting cards that you could use. Like if you have no cards in hand, Caius is an interesting choice to play. You know, Lightning is a very good choice to play. Vanille is a good choice to play. Furion. You have this Onion Knight that can play a 3 or 4 cost character from your hand every time you tap him to return him to hand. You just have tons of powerful choices from your just like little shit bodies. Like Auron is really cool. And I just never understood why people didn't use it. I like this Emperor a lot because he basically flips the top card of your deck and, you know, adds a character. Arden is actually pretty funny if you can back attack him in. I don't know why nobody's been doing this with this Arden. This Arden is kind of stupid. When he enters the field, you could choose to either give all of your forwards 1k first strike or just give one forward 3k brave. So, like, basically flashing this in with a Chocobo Chick or Edgar can basically say, oh, you're trying to attack me and you didn't clear my board or control my board out? Yeah, go fuck yourself. It's just insane. But like always, I kind of want to, you know, show off the deck real quick, real fast, and let you see what you're going to potentially get and, you know, how it might look like in, like, a real game. Do mind my coffee mug. I kind of just woke up and just decided to record. But let's shuffle. I'll do probably like 2 hands. This is like a deck that doesn't really need to be explained too thoroughly. I just like this deck a lot. So this is a pretty interesting hand. You can mulligan this hand. We have Matt, Aerith, Hashmal, Tyro, Kusif. I might as well just play it out, show you what I get. Drawn to Luca. This is pretty fine here. We're going to want to, you know, either pitch one of these 3. So Hashmal, Aerith, or Matt. You're going to want to pitch any combination of the 2. So let's just say Aerith and Hashmal will play out Luca. You want to play Luca here just to flip your cards and see what you get. Since we have the colors, we can grab the Ash here. And then go from there. We'll end our turn. Draw 2 more cards. This is pretty nice. Bart's into Godo. We can actually play the Godo. We'll just pitch, play Godo. And then I would pitch the Matt and the Ash to play Tyro. Tyro's you would search out Galuf always on your Tyro. If you do not have Galuf in hand, you always search him out with Tyro. If you do have Galuf in hand and you hit Tyro and burst or, you know, want to play Tyro, then you just search out the Yuna. You just go down from there. We'll go into our next and last turn, and then this is where you could just play your Galuf out. So we'd go play Galuf. Galuf will flip, you know, and we have 3 targets. I would suggest playing out either Aerith or Poppy here. The Earth Aerith or Poppy. Um, but let's just say we play Aerith, give Galuf 2k, and then we'll just like stay here. You could do more, you could do less. It's up to you. This deck is really, really simple to play, and a lot of the lines and combos are pretty self-explanatory as you play. So there's no real super hard plays in this deck. But let's look at what our next hand would be. So this is really good. We got 2 Zieges, we have an Ashe, we have Sid, and we have Lucia. We drew into Luca. This is pretty simple. We'll just pitch Sid for Ziege and pass. And on our next turn, we get Tyro Kusif. Again, this is another easy, just like, we know what we want. We're going to go for a Luca again here, just to flip 5. We would grab Poppy. I would suggest playing... Actually, I would hold on to the Poppy. I wouldn't play Poppy now. Because now on our turn 3... Turn 3 is looking extra spicy. You go play Aerith. We're gonna play Poppy. And then we can do... We'll just hold from there. We could search for Yuffie, or we could search for a Matt or something like that. But this is pretty good right now. This on like turn 2 or turn 3 is pretty fine. It's safe. It's easy. Your opponent's probably going to want to try and kill one or the other. You could also just LB, a body. So whatever. But yeah, this is the sort of Galuf deck. It's pretty nice, pretty easy, pretty simple. It's not always that you're going to see the Galuf on your like starting turns. Again, you could play like Claris Kolka backups if you want to see them. But just on this alone, it's pretty nice. This deck has been really fun to play in locals and just in general. But I've always enjoyed this Galuf card and what it can do and the implications, so I really wanted to make the video showing like just its implication of what it can be and what he can do. He is pretty nice of a card to have. I didn't even talk about his S ability of just tapping him and dealing something 8k. It's something you don't really need to do, but I enjoy this deck. I enjoy the way it's built. Again, this is just more catered towards me. Again, you could always play what you love what you play, build what you like, and build what you want, sort of style. But yeah, that'll be all from me, guys. This is going to be my Galuf deck. If you like it, like, comment, and subscribe if you want. It's totally up to you. You don't have to. But yep, that'll be everything, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Laters.